Hi there everyone, I thought you might be interested in this twin screw vise I've been working on that virtually eliminates racking vertically and horizontally. There it is, and it's got a quick release mechanism which is fairly uncommon in a twin groove screw vise. Anyway, vertically racking and horizontally racking almost eliminated. I've held it onto the bench at the moment with 3 screws there and there, but it can be held screwed to the bench underneath. I just did that because I'm taking it on and off a lot at the moment. Anyway, I'll rearrange the camera and take it off the bench and show you how it's made. The main tubes which support the movable jaw, I've used 30mm mild steel tube you can buy from B&Q in the UK, and it's actually surprisingly inexpensive. It does come with like a varnish on it, which I've just sanded off. The screws I've used are 20mm diameter by 4mm pitch Acme thread screw, which I bought from ACCU from China. Took about 6 weeks to get here, but it's lovely stuff, and I think I got about 1.2 metre length for about £22–23 including postage. Also bought a couple of nuts obviously for it. Really quite an amazing price really. I've drilled some holes in the end for 5/16 mild steel rod, again to support the screw thread, and this end I've drilled 1/2" holes to support the spindles that go through to this end. I've made the supports really long, so it gives a lot of angular support that way. The drive to the quick release mechanism is via a 3/8 inch square brass section. I'll show you how that works in a minute. So it's quite smooth and easy to operate, he says. There you go. I've drilled and tapped that end with a screw and a washer to stop it pulling right out. Also put some wax on there, just furniture wax, to make it slide a bit easier. I'll rearrange the camera and show you what's inside. It's just held together with wood screws. They don't go right through. So I've kept that face clear of screws apart from these temporary mounting ones. So that comes off. And here's the quick release mechanism. So what happens is a square bar goes in there, and when that rotates it opens the 2 nuts. There you go, pretty obvious what's happening. What I did, I mounted the nuts, drilled and tapped M2.5 countersunk screws into some 16 gauge mild steel plate. This was originally one piece. Then I sawed down the nuts and the plate in one go, and that gave me perfect alignment. I worked out the angles of these mechanism here just to open it, and underneath each nut there's 2 springs, one either side, that springs the nut closed. Same both sides. I put a panel pin in there that does 2 jobs. It stops the nut going further than the centre line, and also somewhere just to hook the springs around. Now, an important thing with this, which I found, was my first prototype, the square brass bar that goes through here to operate the mechanism had a lot of friction. This is a close-up of the square drive to the cable. The cable I use, by the way, is just standard bicycle brake cable, which is again really cheap. Okay, so what I've done is, to reduce the friction, I've mounted 4 ball races, 1, 2, 3, 4, such that when the square brass rod goes in and you twist it, it actually only touches on those 4 ball races and gives me virtually no friction. So that's worked really well. Quite pleased with that. I also turned a channel in the bottom of this pulley, just there, which the bike cable goes in as you twist it, just to give it a bit of support. I've drilled a hole through that channel and just secured the brake cable with an Allen screw in there. This is the movable part of the vise. This is just held on with a pin. There's a washer. And the square drive can then just come out, and what I've done is I've just put a piece of brass rod, drilled a hole in there, and I actually secured that with super glue. I'll put it in the vise in the lathe and put that in the tailstock chuck to make sure it's exactly axial. Pretty straightforward. This is fixed with a Allen screw, and then that can come off, and then the front of the vise is just held on again with wood screws. So there's the chain drive, and I've used bicycle stuff again. Got these sprockets, 2 sprockets and the chain for, I think it's less than £8 from a bicycle shop on eBay. Pretty straightforward. I put 1/2 inch diameter mild steel rod into the screws. So that's the drive. It's really smooth, surprisingly. The plates are quite large, and this is what gives me the support for the tubes to prevent vertical racking. These are, I think, 3/16 thick steel plates, which I've drilled and tapped through to the wood the other side, held with countersunk screws on the other side, and I brazed the 30mm diameter mild steel tube into them so that the top of the vise has a 1 degree lean in to help grip small pieces of wood at the top. So there you go, it's pretty self-explanatory. The important thing I found was, after a few trials and errors, is that it's quite critical, the pitch. I thought I could just get away with any old length, any pitch that I decide, and then just take 1 or 2 links out, but I found that it's actually fairly critical, the pitch between the 2 sprockets. And for this distance I ended up with 261mm, which is quite precise really. Obviously you can make the length much longer if you wanted. Anyway, the actual size of the vise is 400mm long by 200 high, and at the moment it can go out to 6 inches jaw capacity. There you go. I'm really pleased with it actually. It seems to work really well. we'll see what it's like in a few months' time. Thanks very much for looking, and see you next time.